Flower. Those are the ones that are over,
Locust
as
Street.
you're going up, you know where the,
Yeah.
Wentworth is, on the right-hand side where the barn is? You know, that barn, garage, whatever, you know where they have the wedding?
Yeah, yeah.
So those two, there's like a couple of big, big trees and they bloom in the spring. Very fragrant. But they're also good, I think, at erosion control.
If there's a locust, I think they're also got nitrogen fixation.
That's it too, yeah.
I have to leave at 6:30, Ben.
Okay, Brian is running a little late, so
But I can give you a couple of quick updates if we want them before everybody else gets here. You had sent out a thing about one of the easements,
yeah.
which was and I just spent this afternoon going through the deed search. I think I have the answer. What I sent you on the Peppers was totally irrelevant. My apologies. And I don't know whether you did a deed search or not, but it appears that that property was sold to the Society for Protection of New Hampshire Forest with deed restrictions, and then the society gave a quitclaim deed to the Wildcat River Trust for that property in 1988. I chased the deeds back.
So is the Wildcat River Trust a nonprofit?
It's a trust,
Didn't
but it
say
has the
that.
deed restrictions that went with it. And the deed restrictions, and it's kind of interesting.
Did it have trustees or not?
Yes, it does have trustees.
But did it say in the title to the trustees of the Wildcat River Trust?
I believe it did.
That means it's a private trust.
I believe it is a private
Yeah, if
trust.
it was a public trust, you could just say Wildcat River.
I'm almost certain it's a private trust.
Okay.
And it's interesting because here's that development off of Malone, and these two lots are 47 and 48. And then this bigger lot is 64, which is what the reference was. And lots 47, 48, and 64 are what go to the Wildcat River Trust. But they carry the deed restriction that there's, you can do like cross-country skiing, those kinds of things, but no development, etc. So it's a deed restriction on it, not an easement. And when I looked up on the granite system, they called it a DR, which means deed restriction,
Yeah.
as opposed to a CE, a conservation easement, or whatever.
Is that the Wildcat?
Yeah. And then, of course, you have the Sandquist, which is a conservation easement that went to Upper Saco Valley Land Trust, which abuts it. So I believe that's,
We pulled that up years ago when Larry was chairman. That came up on our radar, and I think that's what we came up with, was that it wasn't an easement that we monitored, or it wasn't technically.
Well, it
it's
sounds
a
like,
deed restriction, it's not an
but it
easement.
sounds like Spinoff sold it.
It did, they have a,
So
they have a quitclaim deed.
Yeah, so they didn't reserve a conservation easement.
Well, the conservation easement is when it went to the society by Nichols in 1987. And then in 1988, it goes from the society to the Wildcat River Trust.
But it must have
And
been,
it continues, the deed, it's called what, a deed restriction covenant. You probably know this better than I, which means it runs with the land.
and so it sounds like the property, like quitclaim deed means you're transferring the title rather than just the conservation easement. So Spinoff sold it, and it was subject to deed restrictions, but they didn't reserve a conservation easement. No conservation easement was ever negotiated, which is why it wouldn't be in our list, I don't think.
Yeah.
Because there's no conservation easement.
So
It's a deed restriction.
So it had restrictions on it, and Spinoff sold it without keeping them attached?
No, they remain attached.
They remain, okay, I was gonna say, I was like, you
And it says that in the deed, that those restrictions go with.
Yeah, but I've seen people petition to get those things taken off.
I understand a deed restriction is not as strong as a conservation
Yeah, I
easement.
really hate it when they do that.
But that's,
Yeah.
and I suspect it could have been tied in when the Wildcat was being looked at to be put in the wild and
Mhm.
scenic. You had the Peppers that did an easement, and so on and so forth. This
This was
appears,
Nichols, you said?
um,
Nichols to Spinoff?
Nichols to Spinoff in 87,
That's,
subject to the deed restrictions, and then it goes back to 1959.
and that's no connection to the
And the people on this,
MIT?
and the people on this development still retain right of way to access this property for recreational uses.
Okay.
So that's what I could dig up. I don't know if that helped you or
So
not.
that's where the Wildcat Valley Trail goes right through,
Just go through.
and that is.
Wildcat River, the Wildcat Valley Trail, if you're going northbound, comes up and it takes a sharp right. It
Yeah.
goes up that logging road.
Like Anderson's.
Right, and then it goes over East Maloney Road,
Yeah,
paralleling that
yeah,
development
yeah.
above it. Yeah.
Okay.
And Clapp is just simply the trustee currently, that time, of the Wildcat River Trust.
Okay. So Jeff had sent a letter in 2020, which is the last that I have record of it. And then as I was just pulling letters, so I may have mistakenly sent one in years past, but it is not something correct, because it's not in the Spinif file or in the list of properties that Spinif requires.
Right. Yeah, because we,
Because they're sold.
I think in one of my folders, I have a list of all the properties that either easements or restrictions, and then we broke it down into what we, as a group, were responsible for, and that's how we reallocated the properties
Yeah,
that we.
that list.
Yeah, but it was more of like a spreadsheet
Okay.
kind of thing, where separating.
I mean, if you wanted, you could contact the society since they did.
So who reserved the deed restriction in the first place?
Deed restrictions
Is that
from
Nichols?
Gould, I think it was Gould, I just finished, I don't have it all come in memory. Conveyed to the society by deed of Nancy Nichols, and then it references back to
There's a Wildcat.
the 1965 and the 1959
Land
deeds
across
from
the
which
street
those
from
were derived from, I believe.
That's what
Right.
Wildcat
In
Valley
my
Trail
memory is correct.
kind of goes through from Muldoon Road to Moody Farm.
So Jeff had sent letters for monitoring, but there's no one assigned to the property, and it's never come up since I've been on.
I thought maybe we only reported to Spinif for ones that,
They were the executory interest.
yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, they do, because they retained the deed restriction when they passed it to the Wildcat River Trust. But I think in this case, we just sent a letter to Spinoff saying it's understanding that we do not monitor this because it's a deed restriction that you held when you sold it. And
Okay.
we have no, unless you see otherwise, but
Okay, well, I'll just follow up with that.
that might be the best way to
Yeah.
proceed ahead
It
with
might be a
it.
matter
So,
of who could enforce it too, which ones we
yeah.
take on. So if we can't enforce it, or Spinif can't enforce
Do we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum now, so
Sorry, I got held up at the jump for a second.
And I have to leave early, so I'll try to speed it up by, if you call a meeting to order, I'll try to
Yeah.
speed it up.
we'll call it order and get started. Minutes.
Now, I'll move to approve the minutes because Ben appropriately sends them out as draft, and we should have all read them and not be sitting here reading them.
I did.
I did read them.
So if I can get a second, we can move on without sitting here with
I
everybody
was
reading it,
second that. and-
which is unfair to everybody when you have to sit here and read it.
Any discussion or, no?
The only thing I have is that, and this is so minor, but it's in the, let's see here, under Prospect Farm, third paragraph down, second line, it says Mike recommended using Megabond, and I think it's Omegabond is the name. And I think Omegabond might be like a,
Okay, what is the right name? Because I'm trying to work with this
Oh.
Jackson Skeeter.
Omegabond,
Might be Greek.
Like OMEGA?
Omega.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh.
And I can't remember, that might be like a trademark, like I can't remember if that's
Kleenex.
tissue paper or Kleenex, like I can't remember what Omegabond is.
do you know if they had that done locally or?
The Omegabond that we did, that was through, the place down in Squam Lakes area, and I'm blanking on the name of the, if you give me 1 second, I can find it.
Don't know if that one works.
Yeah.
I get that.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? It's all in favor?
Aye.
Mega Print.
Mega print.
Mega Print. It sounds like a big corporate place, but it's a family-owned sign-making company.
And it's in what, Ashland or?
Yeah, it's like Ashland or Wolfboro. It's somewhere down. I think it might be Ashland or Holderness. Like it's in that area.
Yeah, okay.
They did. We've used them twice, and they've done a really nice job. As had Gemini. We've used Gemini before as well.
And and the material is called Omega Bound.
Yeah, it's called
Yeah.
Mega Bond.
Great. I'll follow up on that, thanks.
Okay.
Sorry, I voted yes.
Excellent. All right. Prospect Farm.
New parking area, I binged Gary. Gary was up grouse hunting up in Pittsburgh. He said he'd get back to me as soon as he got back, which I would assume would be sometime this week relative to getting the gravel and putting it in at that parking lot.
Okay.
The mowing has happened because I hiked up there last week, I guess it was, and the apple orchard has been mowed.
Oh, awesome.
And the cellar holes signage, I was spinning my wheels for a while, and then I realized that I had Garland's 1986 study of the cellar holes, because I'm trying to get the info for the signs. The stuff that you had, Ben, that you sent to me, only had a description for the Johnson. The others was either listed as unknown or just the name and no other information whatsoever of those cellar holes. And if you have some additional information, but everything I find seems to go back to, was it Anne Margaret Garland did a big survey
Yeah.
back like in 80 something. And so I'm starting to go back. I just realized, wait a minute, there's a copy in the library, and then I realized, wait a minute, somehow I got a copy of it, and I have a PDF of it. So I'm going through that to try to get the best information for each of those signs, for each of the cell holes. But Ben, did you, on the stuff that I have in access to the Prospect Farm website, or not website, but files that you had, the signs that you sent around, as I say, just had a lot of information about the Johnson Farm, which is where the apple orchard is, but just names for the others and no information about those sites. Of course, Hall's, I believe, is the name that becomes Hall's Ledge, and of course, the Baker should actually be acknowledged because they're the family that gifted it to the town, etc.
I don't know if Hall's Ledge is Hall. I think you're right, but like
I don't know
You
either.
know, we have the double Hall Trail, the Hall's Ledge, then the Hall Trail.
That's different.
Right. This Jackson Ski Tour Hall Trail is okay. Just making sure that we weren't
Well,
combining the two.
I don't think we are,
Okay.
because Hall's Farm is right up near where Hall's Ledge,
Right,
where
yeah.
you get to. Whereas that hall is an individual.
Right,
Kind of
yeah.
cut and made those trails,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. That's what I'd always thought too.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure, but wait a minute, Hall, is, one of the farms must have been called Hall's Ledge.
Okay.
I was up there Saturday. Went up with a contractor, looked at the orchard. Obviously, we saw the mowing. I mean, definitely interest because it's a beautiful place. Some concern about. I mean, I guess I would say it as if you were a property owner and it was your property, and you wanted to reclaim your orchard to have apples. The cost value wouldn't probably be there because of the amount of time to technically really prune those trees
Yeah.
and get them how you want them to be and then have a return on it. But in terms of looking at it as a historical place that is producing food for animals, as well as a beautiful orchard that it is, and that by pruning it, you will effectively save most of the trees, so they will, you know, they'll be able to have less deadfall, you know, be healthier, produce a better crop of apples. That's a possibility, but just typically if you went onto someone's property and said, oh, I want to save this tree, you're not always doing someone fair service by saying, oh yeah, we'll prune your trees for you, because the amount of time and money that goes into pruning a tree, they'd be better off not, because you're not going to get the apple that you think you're going to get out of the tree. There is some black mold on most of the tree leaves right now, so that was something else that they just said, like, well, let's try to figure out what this is. Another concern is something that would be helpful, and this is something I think we've talked about, like ideally something we'd be interested in doing, but the whole process is probably a little bit overwhelming. Just pruning it in general and getting it mowed, but the mowing ideally needs to be almost like weed whacked around the perimeter of the trees.
Yeah,
The trees-
I noticed that with the
the
rock.
trees are being choked out as well. Like, it's great, what we're doing, everything that's being done helps the orchard and the trees, but just in terms of like, if you really want to get it done right, well then those trees need to be cleaned up right to the base of the tree.
Because it looked like Rick just went wherever it was easy.
Yeah, I
And
mean-
that was done, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he did what he
Right,
is
right.
probably being hired to do, or what he typically does. And then there's areas that are difficult for him to get into, that those have to be done with handwork. But yeah, just in general, like the tree needs to be freed from its suckerville. But it was all positive. I mean, very interested, excited, love historical trees, passionate. But that's as far as we went with it. It was kind of like, well, this is excellent, but this is like, you got a lot here. You know, this is a multi-year, well, which we've already talked about, that, you know, minimum of 3 years to just bring the trees into the shape, and pruning have to be required to kind of begin to give somebody something that you could then, if you had a good group of volunteers, you could maintain, or have someone continue to maintain them.
Could it give you a cost as to what it would be for the animal?
No, we didn't get a cost. I think part of it was just seeing what we'd be interested, if that was like, is that interesting, you guys? Is that something you would do? You know, are we willing to manage let's just say the orchard without the trees to the level that would then satisfy their being interested in being like, well, if we know that this will be taken care of, well, then we'd be interested in pruning the trees. But if we're pruning the trees, but it can grow into some sort of a jungle that's just going to struggle. So, well, it'd still be interested, but this is more of a, I haven't seen this before. I can get a cost, but it was based upon a multi-year commitment.
And your objective.
Well, I think, I mean, I know that Jackson Ski Touring has tried to cut in around, you know, its land that it owns in the Pinkham, which is the way that,
Mhm.
you know, just cut back and give some of those apple trees a chance and get rid of the invasives. But
Mhm. Right,
it's definitely not gonna spend money to,
right.
because those are, number two, is those are old heritage apples that nobody really want to eat.
Yeah.
You probably want to make cider out of.
Yeah.
And my guess is the ones up in the Johnson farm are probably pretty much in the same category.
There's a couple edible, I think there's a couple trees that we pruned a couple of years ago that produced some tasty apples.
Yeah, but I
This
just,
year, for whatever reason, it's not there's not much of a crop of apples.
which is interesting because last year across the state it was a lousy apple
Yeah.
because of the late frost. This
Yeah.
year, most of the apple orchards are claiming it was a very good year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of spots I've been to that are close to none. Trees that are, on properties that, you know, old farms that I either,
I've noticed the same thing
Caretake.
at the Pinkham farm.
Yeah,
It's not
and
any
even,
problem this year.
which was another question I had, but before I get onto that, but I couldn't believe, I'm not usually there on weekends, you know, up there, or would I be walking? Usually I'd be in the woods already, like immediately into Bogbrook or wherever. But the diversity of use up there, I was really surprised. I mean, there were groups of people on bicycles, riding all over the place. Like I didn't expect to see, people over 60 riding up, trying to get up to the Hall's Ledge on their mountain bikes, hitting every spur trail. Local people I knew walking dogs with kids and people running, and it was,
I go up there frequently,
to
yeah.
be there with other people that don't know it, that's what they were just like, oh, this is cool. I was kind of like, I didn't even know it was like this. Like it was like a park, people all over the place.
You can tell a lot of people liked up the Halls Ledge
Yeah.
because that's beaten out.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
things were beaten in.
And the Buggy Brook Trail,
Yeah,
and of course, most of that is actually on Forest Service land, because you cross the gate, but you get a lot of people running with their dogs, walking with their dogs, families out there with their kids with bikes, because it's a safe place to mountain bike without getting hit. Because, we've known that's part of the reason why.
I get it. You can see, you just park and you have all sorts of options. And we were there for hours, and a lot of the cars for the people that I saw were still there. So
Yeah.
and people I knew. So it's like, wow, they didn't just go for a stroll to the gate and back.
And you get a few who are gonna park there to either access Carter Notch or going up into Perkins Notch, that area as well.
Yeah.
But, quite frankly, when I go up there, it's sort of like, these are a lot of people enjoying this place.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't call it overused, but it's good to see.
Yeah, I think that's the right word. It seemed like everybody was enjoying it.
Yeah.
It was like, again, to be there with people that have never been there, and to see what people were doing.
And ironically, Baker's
Wow.
gifting was to the town for recreation.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of places in town that you can go for like a flat walk,
Yeah.
like a long flat walk.
Yeah,
And
or
so-
even gradual climb.
When
You know,
I-
like-
when
We get a lot of people using because the wave gets mowed. There's a
Mhm.
lot of people that walk that trail as well.
Mhm.
To go to your question about kind of objective, bigger picture objective with the orchard, I guess I would probably lean more towards, the type of just pruning and maintenance for essentially like keeping the trees healthy and producing a crop for
Yeah.
animals.
Mhm.
I think I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think anyone here feels like we're gonna get into that apple cider
No.
business or anything. We're gonna really go after it. But for me, if we could have a regular, have someone who regularly took care of it, that maintains the tree health and
Yeah.
whatever a steady-ish crop for animal use, then that would be amazing.
I think it was almost a gentle way of them kind of being like, you don't expect that you're going to be like, pick your own apple.
Oh
No,
yeah.
Is that what you think's happening here? It was more like, well, this is what, to protect these trees, this is what needs to be done. And even pruning on a multi-year schedule is really just so that you don't stress the tree too much at once.
Mhm.
So that's why it's spread out over time, so that the tree, you make a couple big cuts first to get the shape and the dead stuff, and then you gradually bring it in, and then it just starts producing suckers, and then that's your job is to eliminate the suckers to keep it from.
I think if you could
Pushing
ask
that
them to
down.
give us a quote to do it pretty much with what
Yeah,
he's indicating, which is, for wildlife management. There is another orchard higher up, if you go out the Dana Place Trail,
mhm,
and at the very end, if you go into the woods, which is then the Dana Place Trail, it starts on down, right off that trail on the right-hand
over
side.
the stone wall there.
Yeah, the Forest Service,
I was just in
once in
there.
a while, goes in there
Those
Prunes
apples
it.
are, those apples are good.
and they just do a wildlife cut.
Yeah,
Um,
and
And I think that's what we should be looking at.
it's overgrown now, again.
But they don't go in and mow it in,
No.
which is what's happening.
Which is
here.
cool that that's one of the things I wrote down. I figured it had to be the Forest Service that goes in there and does that.
Yeah, it's on their property. Yeah.
Because I recently went up Hall's Ledge, all of them, Marshbrook and Hutman's, just to access the Prospect Farm property, just because I do things in Jackson. But it's really neat. If you could-
Valentine's pulled his trailer up on
Yeah,
Marshbrook.
yeah.
We're gonna need to talk with him.
It's
I mean, it's
really
his
just a
land.
neat place if we could create something that wasn't just dead ends. You know, like adding those, you have those 3 access points, which is pretty cool for Route 16. You know, if you use those, it's not up, they're not dead ends, but for most people.
It's actually a great height
It's
to
like a
go
dead
from
end.
Route 16 up, if you've ever done that trip.
Yeah.
No covenants?
Hall's
Or
Ledge.
Hell's Ledge.
Yeah, it's all the way.
Is there still this trail sign there? Last time I drove by, I was like, because it used to be right at the bridge.
I don't
No.
think there is.
Is there not a sign
I
there
think-
anymore?
No, I can't remember.
No, I don't think there is anymore.
Then you go across, you actually go on private property for a short distance, and you get back onto Forest Service land. Then it goes
Yeah.
up steeply.
Yeah,
That steep solution is pretty neat. There's a lot of big, huge deciduous trees
Yeah.
that had been cut in a long time.
but yeah, the mowing looked good. I thought Prospect looked good. Obviously, that other, I drove down to the other parking lot and saw the mud spot, and there were 2 people parked at it, but not deep. So.
At the new parking spot.
Yeah, the parking lot was full at 10 in the morning. Like, we were all parking outside of where you're supposed to park. Well,
The ski touring lot or the Forest Service one?
for our parking lot, so
Gotcha.
Forest Service. Valentine had 2
Oh, yeah,
cars.
yeah, yeah.
There are people that do park in Valentine as
Yeah,
well.
there were 2 people, 2 cars at Valentine, and the Valentines were out. And, yeah, it was like a,
And they
Popular
expanded, the lot was
spot.
full.
Hmm?
And the expanded new lot was full.
The expanded lot had 2 cars, like, in it, but there was enough room to, like, pull in and back out.
And once that's fixed, it'll be clearer.
Yeah,
But it's not going to be the same size as the existing lot. But,
Mm.
and some of the parking there, as you well know, is just dependent on where the first car parks and the second next to them is to.
while we're on that orchard part, just because it's not, does that mean that the Forest Service is mowing Grace Field? Or is that Jackson Ski Tour? And the same for Dollar Farm? Who's,
The restoration effort in Grace Field would be Forest Service.
that got heavily, they did
They did a wildlife management
quite
effort with it, yeah.
a big cut. I
Okay.
mean,
That was the Forest Service.
excellent. And they did the upper, you know, so they tractored down, looks like something, a tracked vehicle all the way down from top of Green Hill. And they hit the, well, I guess you could call it an orchard, but the upper section for the big, would be, if you're going down a big right-hand turn, and then back into Grace Field. And then they hit another spot. And then I think someone just recently did Dollar Farm too.
Well, the ski touring, I haven't been on there in a while, and I'm gonna be meeting with Ellen tomorrow, but I know they're starting to do the cutting on all the trails, just the mowing, basically. And that's normally what they would do in there, is just the trail itself.
And what about the,
But I believe the Forest Service had a wildlife management effort in Grace Field, because
Yeah.
they had apple trees and all kinds of stuff in
yeah,
there.
they've even pruned some of the, not just brushed it, but I think last year they actually cut some limbs, and
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, because that was starting to take a beating
yeah.
between the bears and snow. And my last one is, what, it's not the Kellogg, oh, it's a Kellogg.
Yeah.
What's going on from the Hall's Ledge, or whatever we call it, Rocky Branch, down to the Ellis now, that connection, the connection?
Don't get me going.
Okay, it's just
But
really,
the short answer is, when you get onto the Kellogg, which is basically,
the old
Little
avalanche
Loop is
route.
the Dana place,
Yep,
there's a new trail that has been cut. It
yeah,
goes up and hits the Kellogg where it goes up steep, about a third of the way up.
yep,
We're still going through, and that's to pull it away from the Ellis, which is flooding. And that part on the Ellis was partly on private property.
mm-hmm,
And that trail, when it goes up, has 4 stream crossings, the same one.
mm-hmm.
And the Forest Service has just tied itself in knots, not only for Jackson Ski Touring, but for snowmobile clubs and everybody else, of having standards that's financially unreachable for
Right,
most.
the bridges are probably, the culverts are
Yeah,
probably
so
3
it
feet.
looks like we're close to finally, and we've had quite a session, over a year, trying to get over little intermittent streams, bridges
Yeah.
approved. It's just been a friggin' nightmare. I mean,
Okay, so that's, I meant.
So the corridor's been cut.
Yeah,
We're still waiting for, the
Okay.
ski touring is still waiting for final engineering approval of the bridges, which first had to meet, in the beginning, had to meet highway standards, which would have been $100,000 plus per bridge. Snowmobile clubs were running into the same damn issue.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah, because I went through the other day.
I mean, that would have been
It
a
looked
$500,000.
It's like, something's
Kellogg's the one if you're at Rocky Branch, it's the one that drops down, right?
first time.
Yeah, first
time
left, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
But the first bridge, after you leave and you go up where the Ellis comes down, then it takes a real sharp left.
Okay,
And it
yeah,
was backing up and there was a big bridge there. And as it backed up, it was eating away. That bridge, well, if you walked
Yeah.
across the
Oh,
bridge, one of those
Yeah.
piers, and that's just gonna get worse, which is why that whole trail is being just moved
Yeah.
right out of that section.
okay. Well, that's mine.
We got the ski touring got a grant from Northern Borders to do
From
that
who?
work. From Northern Borders Regional Commission, yeah.
Cool. That's my all around town poking it. Well, there's more places that.
But I think to follow up on the apple orchard before we lose it is, I would suggest that you
Yeah.
go back and get a quote. We just want basic wildlife management.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all on board.
Then we should figure out how to whack up against the trees somehow or other to open it up.
Well, that, I mean,
That would be part of it.
that could be Rick, that could be us, that could be them,
Okay,
you know, just kind of recommendations.
so maybe a quote with that or without that?
I can ask Rick about that because he had someone go in there
Yeah, last year, or 2 years ago.
by hand because of all that brush didn't get dragged out,
Yeah.
so couldn't have the machine in there.
Yeah, and you can't, I mean, there's like, it looks like there's stone walls on that stuff. I mean,
Didn't
it's-
Dick say something about going to the machine and hauling that stuff out?
Yeah, it's not just that that's in the way, it's hard to walk in
Yeah.
there. I don't know if you've ever spent any time like
So you need some
literally trying to
snowshoes.
walk through there. It's overgrown brambles.
Yeah. Mm.
It's not just the stuff that people cut,
It's a
it's the
trap.
branches that fall down because the bears and winter just wrecks the trees.
So it's just a trap.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's not like walking in a field
Mhm.
that, you know, has
It's
hay.
a lot of slash.
Yeah,
What time did you need to?
I need to leave at 6:30.
Okay. So is there anything else on Prospect Farm, or we just keep on moving forward with the things we have going? Okay,
I'll let you know once Gary gets back to me. Just how we-
all right.
But basically, what I asked Gary was, well, I think you got the email that I sent to him, is, if he can spec out the gravel and what's needed, and then we just reimburse him once he does it.
Yep. Okay. Jackson Falls,
If I can, on Jackson Falls, on the management plan, I did talk with Chief Burke, because some of the issues came up. Cars that are parked out into the road, they're so long, that's illegal. So we don't need to put anything in. If they decide it's unsafe, they'll just proceed ahead. He did give a couple suggestions, which was number one, let me just see, he said, write into your plan, no hammocks, no camping, no glass,
No fires.
no fires, no boom boxes, and there may be some ordinances already. He said, if it's in your management plan, then he can turn around and write the ordinances so that they could be enforceable on his part as opposed to us trying to write the ordinances. He said he had a lot of,
that's good.
so I did.
Can we do it the other way, that says the only uses that are permitted are X, Y, and Z? Hard to remember the litany of all the things they can't do.
yeah, but then that gets hard because then maybe something that we don't know about happens.
But isn't that what Tin Mountain is? Tin Mountain basically says, no, I guess their signs do say no camping, no fires.
Yeah.
No, I think it's obvious to throw out the big six,
Yeah.
or whatever those are.
And then the other things as I try to finish up a draft of it is, I think we all agreed, and that's in the minutes here, is keep the lower picnic table, don't replace the other, add bike parking, porta potty as is, Trees, if they become a serious safety issue, then we'd remove them. Carry in, carry out. Those seem to be the basic things. I'm gonna check again, because the town does have some ordinances. I just wanna make sure that we're not asking him to write an ordinance that exists in some shape or form already. So I did follow up with Pearlie. That's was his, and I asked him if there's anything he thought we should add to the list he gave me.
Yeah, I think those were good input on his end. Is there anything about dog waste? That's already.
Carry on, carry out. Including, we can put, including the dog waste.
You could maybe also.
I don't see that many dogs in there, do you?
Yeah, it just seems like everybody, dogs are like kids now.
Well, the thing is, you know,
People
they-
just expect it's like,
well, the school put up the bags for
mhm.
people to use, so it kind of invites people.
Yeah, a lot of
to-
people leave those bags at the porta potty,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is better than no place, but.
Yeah.
yeah, but putting poo in bags and leaving it's worse than just, shooting the poo into the bushes, if you ask me.
We could also maybe put a line in there that's just something like, and whatever else is not compatible with the recreational and
So a-
conservation goals
A catch.
of the town, like so a catch-all. So like when the thing 5 years from now, when everyone's doing that thing that we don't want them to do there,
We
you
had no
know,
idea that they'd be doing.
yeah, we didn't know that was even a thing that existed.
Unicycles will be coming down.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we could put no drones. I mean, that's hard, but,
Yeah, drones are, they're obnoxious.
everywhere now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an obnoxious thing.
Of course, you can't stop them when they fly over, it's just when they originate from the falls.
Right.
Right.
Would that need to go through have an official ordinance, or that's just a stated use?
I think what we would say is no launching or retrieving drones from the Jackson Falls. It's the only way you could do it.
Mhm.
Somebody's flying from someplace else.
Right.
You just don't want kids sitting on the falls
Yeah,
playing with drones.
I agree.
Or any other motorized.
But if somebody wants to do the falls and they want to do Jackson or something, I don't think you want
Yeah, I just think it's, you shouldn't.
launching and
You
retrieving.
shouldn't have to deal with that. Manage what you can, There's
I may
plenty
come
of
across a few others when I try to get this thing together, because that's my homework today, which is running late.
Along with no camping, I guess that can encompass like overnight sleeping in cars, right? Can we just say that camping, right? Because that's the other big thing.
I believe the town has a no camping on Prospect and on town lands in general. That's what I want to check.
And it says
Yeah.
it's only 2-hour parking too.
Yeah.
Okay, it does, yeah, okay, there's 2 hours, you're right, so we don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, we're gonna keep
I
the,
was just thinking, because I was at Pinkham yesterday, 2 days ago, and they had new signs up that, before it used to be no camping, and now it's no sleeping in your car,
yeah,
no camping. Because I think a lot of people,
oh yeah.
So many.
you can go up there and just, sleep in your van.
And poop in the woods.
Okay. I think Pam was up there today looking at bridge construction and where they've been pouring. I feel like part of their plan is site remediation, so those areas that have been backfilled along the wing walls. I don't know if it's worth discussing with them or just
Might
having
be.
them spread
Yeah,
the
I think it's a good
minimum.
idea if we get involved in that, because we've got some input. Because otherwise, things just happen and we have no clue. And then we're like, well, why didn't they do X? Why didn't they do Y? So it would be nice to have some input. Because the
Right.
thing is, the way it's structured now is people could easily come down there.
And
I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I've been up there often watching it, but I haven't looked at a plan, like the actual engineered plan, to see what they're contracted to do versus what it looks like now. because it's, like, I don't know if we're the only two that have been there, but it's very different. The landscape is
Yeah, so it's,
changed.
so this is the stuff now that's right
On the
against
Carter
the
side or on
lanes.
the Tenth
Or
Street
not
side?
side, yeah.
I haven't, I
And
haven't.
it comes down more
I
gradually.
haven't read
Yeah.
anymore.
So that, when you look up from up above. And I noticed too that on the other side underneath that they were
Oh, okay,
actually.
so they put this in here?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it sticks way out onto that ledge that was right there.
That's gonna force the
This is-
water when it's under a flood.
And people are gonna wanna come down this way because it's gonna look really attractive.
That's gonna be interesting to see what it does when
And
it
the
forces the
interest-
flood
yeah.
water there. Or if the flood water jumps that.
Well, so I guess those new things, as things are evolving, we definitely should have a day where we meet out there and just to look at that before.
It would also be nice to maybe touch base with selectmen or something and just say, hey, can the Conservation Commission have some input on what's, planting?
I know that in our group, our support letter that went out, that was one of our requests, is that we were doing remediation, and that was our focus, so they've acknowledged that.
Okay. Yeah, I can mention it to Brent.
Certainly, yeah. But, so I'm just, I know my schedule is very up in the air. Is there a day that works better, or in the morning, in the evenings, dead of night?
Yes.
Flashlights.
You pick a really late time, we'll make sure. it's
Full moon.
Yeah.
Mine all depends on the day. My every day is different, so it all just depends
I'm
on
the
the
same.
It's a lot of color coded there.
Oh my gosh, my life is run by the Google Calendar.
Oh,
So many sports, so many pickups and drop-offs, so many different schools in it.
Wednesdays and Thursdays are good for me.
Okay.
I work at home, so.
I try to get out of everything if I can. So you just present it and I'll do my best. But I'm working down, so.
It'd be better if you could send out
Well, I think.
two or three event nights that you think would work for you, and then we can, I stupidly left my phone on my calendar at home.
2 or 3 nights, I think we're losing daylight.
Well, that's what
No,
I
I
mean,
mean,
is a
Yeah,
morning
it's
options.
Times, yeah.
easier to work into that schedule, just sometimes at the end of the day, I'm pushing out, so I don't want to be getting into
Yeah,
doing dark. I'd just like to be able to spend an hour where we can see everything, so like a Thursday morning, like.
Yeah, or 4 o'clock, which means we get that work early, but
Yep.
it's occasionally doable. I see.
you looking at the end of this week?
This week is not good,
Yeah, this would be a tough week for me too.
but like this next week, the 17th, 16th or 17th.
I was going to be here the 16th.
I can't do the 16th, soccer practice and then an evening program at the Wentworth.
What we did in the morning?
I'm not here 16th all day.
Yeah, no, I'm in Freiburg in the morning,
Okay.
teaching the academy. The 17th, that Thursday, can't do that one either.
I think I can do that. I can do either of those
I'm going
days.
all day and all night.
Well, let's see if Mike can find a time, and then we'll see if we can schedule around.
I never stop moving and doing things. I have 3 kids who play sports in like 3 different parts of this county.
Yeah,
And so it's like, I drive to Freiburg County in the morning, and then over to like Gorham High School in the afternoon, and then school gets out, and it's like, oh, now I can drive to Conway for field hockey practice.
And then somebody's got to get them.
I know, right? Crazy.
So the 17th?
Possibly the 17th. I've got it doesn't matter. I've got a field trip all day with Kennett High School, and then there's a field hockey game against Berlin, but I might be able to figure something out.
What about in the morning first thing?
I'm on a field trip all day with
Oh.
We could put you on a Zoom so you could see.
What does the 18th look like?
I could do the afternoon of the 18th.
you could also walk it too, and just get your eyes on it.
Yeah, I don't have to be there. I'm not that bad.
18th is,
That's Friday.
Friday.
I don't know why I can't.
Put the squam animal thing at the library on 4:30.
It's gonna be nice out.
Let me check the 10-day. Hold on here.
Forecast, like, yeah, I'm busy.
I could probably do early on the 18th.
Okay.
I don't have to be in Freiburg until 9:30-ish, I think, on the 18th. So it's possible in the morning.
So 17th or 18th seems like impossible.
Yeah, for us.
Okay.
Just send out an email and I'll.
Okay, and I'll let Dick know, and
Sorry.
And I'll let you know what my schedule is on those dates.
Self-employed sacrificers.
see it, where am I gonna be that day? All right, so I'll send out an email at the end of this week and midweek next week, just to touch base. I don't know. If we need to make that a public meeting, if that has to get a public notice.
Only if more than 3 of us can
Yeah, I
show
think
up.
anytime where you have more than, when 4
Three,
people are there.
If there's 4, so maybe only if more than 4 can make it.
Yeah,
More than
you're
3
supposed to
can
do
make it.
that 2 weeks in advance, blah, 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 aren't you?
My understanding is that you can have an emergency meeting that doesn't have that, but if we send out a public notice that we'll be meeting to do that, I think, just as long as we notify.
So it sounds like I shouldn't come.
Me either.
Okay.
See
All
what
right.
friends say.
If there is do we not want, we can discuss sod plantings then, or, okay,
Which places we want to do.
okay. Okay. Well, then, if there is anything else,
We said this Thursday didn't work, right? Sorry.
correct.
Okay. So could
I have a dentist appointment.
Lucky.
Haven't been to the dentist in 17 years.
Oh, the dentist is gonna be so excited.
Oh.
Yes.
That dentist is just like,
But what
No,
time is
they're
your
just
dentist
dead.
appointment?
send me in, coach.
10.
10. Oh. Well, are they just looking?
No, it's,
They're
there's
scouring.
cavities.
Yeah.
Get what?
I've got cavities there.
So they're going ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yeah, get the extra big scraper.
Yeah,
That's
he's
good.
like
The Novocaine will be good.
getting a new bike.
Yeah, I have
Expensive.
one.
Yeah.
But
Anyways,
Yeah.
They last longer.
Raisins.
Gray's Inn.
Still not there.
There's a lot of fallen trees on the trail.
There sure are.
Okay. Community garden.
Water's off. So,
And blown out.
what about the blown out part? But they're supposed to do it when they do all the other stuff.
Okay.
You know, when they do this,
The flowers look very nice.
yeah, the flowers kind of took over. Try to fix my hair.
Wildcat River finished testing for September and sent off all the data to DES. I would be interested in doing that next year, definitely adding the
Bacteria.
bacteria testing, and we have money in the budget for that, so. I was also thinking that, I don't know if we need to expand, but maybe working with Bartlett Conservation Commission if they want to expand, because they're looking for things to do, and doing more testing on the Saco, or the Ellis down to the Saco Junction.
And the Ellis goes in Bartlett.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Ellis is in Bartlett.
so.
That'd be good.
And I once I got all the instruments to play nice with each other, it was interesting, it was fun, it was a nice opportunity to talk to people too, since
Yeah.
you're kind of standing there doing weird things with
I
buckets.
saw you guys out there the other day.
So what you did, DO10 conductivity?
pH, turbidity,
Really all depends on the storm.
Yeah, and that was the one that showed like it was very sensitive to storm.
Yeah.
And the first testing off Maloon, there were trucks driving around. Anyway, it was revealing. It was interesting. I liked it.
Did you just use like a YSI meter? Was it like a probe? What was the
Yeah.
testing materials?
So there was a YSI meter, which was the dissolved oxygen and temperature, and the turbidity meter, and then the pH meter. And the pH meter was the one. The YSI was really temperamental in that it was slow, and it just like that was the thing. Like it took at least 20 minutes to get a stable reading. So doing all the other tests while that one was settling down, getting them all calibrated, and then
So do you take like cups of water and put things,
Draw-
or just stick stuff in it?
draw like a 5-gallon bucket,
Okay.
and then run all of your tests off of that bucket.
Same bucket.
Yeah. So pulling like the pH and the dissolved oxygen was done in the bucket. The turbidity you draw off.
So what were your conclusions?
Well, the pH meter was a little sensitive, so it was reading slightly acidic.
That's to be expected because you have very low conductivity water, very poorly buffered. And if your pH meters, which many of those are, don't actually have a probe that is sensitive to that, you will find it'll wander a lot. And you get invasion of CO2, which is carbonic acid, which can cause in a very low buffer to flip all over the map. Yeah, that's,
It gave stable readings.
but
It
you're
was,
probably like 6 point something or other, I would guess.
yeah, it was about in that.
And your DO is close to 100%, it should be saturation.
Saturation.
I mean, those things are so consistent, that's the most important value, which is the one we haven't measured to date, is chloroform, yeah. The rest is,
Yeah. So
Good.
I enjoy doing it. I'd like if we can get a bigger group or other people involved. I think I can kind of direct people a little efficiently. So.
but your conductivity was probably like, what, 30, 40 micromoles?
I can't recall anything
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
But it's gonna be a very low ionic solution.
Yeah. But the pH meter had, I think, after examining it, someone probably closed the cord in the case at one point, and there was a little crimp in it. And so if it wasn't perfectly straight,
It's
then
time to buy a new probe.
yes. Anyway. So I had a good time doing it.
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah.
Monitoring reports, letters have gone out on the properties.
Was one sent for the peppers? 'Cause- Okay,
And I discussed Julie, the contact information that they have is what we have. It hasn't changed.
which is Alice Pepper. Sarah is back now because her mother's had a serious fall. She's up at the COAS nursing though. She's improving dramatically. I mean, I did go up visit with her. For a 96-year-old lady, she's got a lot of oomph. But and Sarah's back from Sweden now.
Yeah, she's quite a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and a neighbor. And
Just like two 96-year-old women living next door to each other in big giant houses.
It's their grandfather's
It's
bill.
amazing.
Yeah. I see Alice Proctor walks that road every day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Every day. I go like 2 miles an hour.
We have a contest to see who counts the most lady slippers along.
I was just gonna
the
say,
road.
that's what's her, yeah, she's like counting lady slippers.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
So
So a letter has been sent out.
letters have gone out.
And that's just telling them, because when I looked at the files, it looked like the last time that somebody had done that parcel was like 2007.
Yeah, she lives in Conway, like.
Yeah.
she's
Where were
like-
you
Yeah,
looking?
vacations from.
Yeah,
Isn't that funny?
and the materials that was provided to me.
So Tom was previously responsible for that, and this is another thing I'm gonna have to check with Spinif because they did change their thing. It will
Oh.
not show the
Okay.
past interest. Like they
Yeah.
they definitely changed it, so you can't go back and look at previously filed reports.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, the pepper one? I did it for Tom one year, like maybe last year, 2 years ago.
See, I can't find it, if,
I know I definitely did. I definitely did peppers because it's just easy. It's worked in the backyard.
Yeah, well, we were just saying, it used to be that you could see what you did previously. So like see the
Oh.
history of your reports and you could go through your reports, but now,
and I need the form if I'm gonna go out, but I wanted to see the last.
yeah, it's just
what's that
easier
form.
if you get to see it.
And then I walk the land so many
If
times,
I
I know
had
nothing
known-
is,
Yeah,
I think my report when I did it last was nothing's changed.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'll send that to you.
Okay, great.
Um,
I gotta take it off.
okay. No wetlands.
just on that note, we should reach out to Kevin Bennett and try to include him in a meeting so that we could talk about
Who'd you want
Site.
to include?
the building inspector, just to talk about job site management, site requirements,
Well,
driveways washing out. you know.
looking at the, on the, like, building permit application, which I'm sure you're well aware of, the list of maintaining those things is very explicit, so.
Yeah,
um,
and then there's also the driveway permit, and then there's, but then again, it comes back to who's responsible if someone has an engineered plan that's through the state. Is it Kevin? You know, like we see, it's sort of like what we're seeing, not to say there's anything wrong with it, what's going on at the bridge, but, you know, we see the plans, we look at them, we can't change it, but it's like, okay, this is what they're doing. We have to just assume that someone is actually following what it says, like they're literally putting the hay bales there, are they staking them down, are they cleaning out the ditches when they fill in, because the hay bale is only effective if you maintain it, you know, like all these little bits and pieces.
So is Kevin the one who's supposed to be monitoring?
I just don't
Who else
know,
would do it, yeah.
but it's just a false sense of security when you're a group of people who, you know, might have an opinion, and then you look at it and you're like, well, you know, at least someone has engineered this system that should make the worst not happen. But then you realize, like, well, who's responsible for maintaining it? Because you could drive by it this second day it goes in and go like, we just had that storm. The entire system that's holding back this disaster is already compromised. And the homeowners don't live here. So it's like, can you really give somebody a permit to maintain something that's designed to be maintained, yet you're not here to maintain it? And then when it doesn't work, it's literally, the buffer is the Wildcat River. That's the part that you just kind of, you're like, this, it doesn't really make you feel all that great when you look at all the plans that, like, oh, don't worry, I've designed this. It's like, yeah, well, but no one's really responsible for maintaining it, or is there something to be said about having a system that will only protect the person below you if you're literally home to maintain your, like, where does that go, you know? Because we live in a town where people don't actually live in their houses, so it's like they don't know that their culvert's blocked.
Right.
And no one would have said, yeah, I'll let you put that culvert in, thinking that you're not gonna maintain it. You know, it's like all the systems are based upon, because so many of the sites are on the edge of,
Yeah, we go out in the middle of the storm to make sure we don't lose our driveway. You know,
Correct.
she's out there with a shovel and a
Exactly.
pickaxe. and-
we used to walk all of Iron Mountain Road, the whole lower section, because we lived down it, and if you didn't, you might not be able to get your car down, because all the culverts would clog. You know, but that's not what most people are doing.
Mm.
But then to see the house sites that are available to be built on, or sites that people typically wouldn't build on because it seemed difficult,
Yeah.
but then you have an engineered plan to allow you to do it.
Mm.
So now you're developing sites that are already tricky, so they have engineered plans, yet how do you make sure that those
Seems-
systems are maintained?
It seems like it's a town concern because they want to make sure things don't blow the roads out and, you know, cost more.
So is the bigger question just if we see these things, how do we appropriately
To whom do we report?
respond? Yeah, report it to? Is that kind of the bigger?
Well, yeah,
Or-
I mean, the town has, you know, a very extensive list of what is required in your building permit application, and you're responsible for doing this, and this. There's no inspection or, like, the list of required inspections
Mhm.
do not include site maintenance.
Right.
There's,
And I was reading.
And it's that silly thing, it's not silly, but you're always gonna be a day late.
It's like the site disturbance plan, when people are blasting, because up by me, there's a couple of sites that are being extensively blasted. And one neighbor actually, you know, came to the town told them, you can require it, you can ask that the town request a site disturbance plan from the people who are blasting. But the people don't have to do it until the town asks them, until
Right.
somebody who's a neighbor says, hey.
Yeah. Or,
It's kind of backwards.
yeah,
You
it
should
it
just
is.
do it, you know?
Well, that's,
It comes down to a plan, how are you
That's
gonna
what I-
maintain this culvert? How are you
Gotcha.
gonna maintain this?
and if it gets beyond, if it gets to a certain level that you are, you're actually affecting a certain amount of land, then the state is involved, and you do have to have a complex engineered plan that's difficult to do, and then someone from the state will potentially be inspecting it, and the fines and fees are enormous. So, you know,
yeah, so I think it's a
site that.
when you get into the below 10,000 square foot
Right,
is a minor project. The over 10,000, which requires the hydraulic analysis and erosion and sediment control plan submission.
mhm.
So if they've submitted that, is it enough to just, they have submitted it, but there's no expectation that, how do we follow through on that?
Yeah.
Is that something that needs to be added to the building permit requirement? And would it be useful to have the planning board?
And that's why
Yeah,
it'd be useful
maybe.
to talk to Kevin Bennett
Yeah.
and see exactly what does he do, and does he see that there are any holes or gaps or, you know, some of
Yeah.
the things you're talking about.
In some ways, it's like you don't want to make it more difficult to, already do a difficult process, which is building in a town that's on a steep hill with rivers everywhere, but it's like, well, you went through the process of trying to resolve this potential problem. My point is, how do you make sure that people maintain it? Because you've just made two valleys for, you could have a 1/4 acre lot, but it just got backfilled with sand, so now it's just sand.
Yeah.
You're not over the 10,000 square foot whatever, but you're the funnel now. So you're taking 10,000 square feet of mass and it's coming through you and you design the system, but it's only so good as if it can be maintained. There's lots of them. I mean, I work on some of them. This is a difficult town to work, to do construction in.
It's like the check dams. I mean, they do their job, but then they're done. You
Yeah.
have to come back and clean
Right.
them out.
And that's just not what people want,
No.
but they want to sign off on something. So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll reach out to Kevin, or, I mean, if you
Yeah.
see him in the interim. or-
I do, I mean, I do. We chat, but I think it needs to be done
Come
here.
for me, yeah.
Yeah, I think it should be done in here so that he can say his piece, and if it's road agent that's, involved in it or whatever.
I mean, in researching this and looking at, the various things that the road agent is responsible for, and like issuing driveway permits,
Mhm.
is, like, I don't know how thorough of an inspection that requires, or,
Yeah, I mean, they're in a tough spot too, because there's requirements that sometimes don't make sense, and they get implemented on people where it's never gonna happen, and it's so costly to do, and then, then there's people that can do that same bare minimum, and they're in a position where they're the ones that should be doing the maximum, but they're able to do the bare minimum because of the requirement. I mean, I know some properties that have had culverts put in, that's like, where's this water gonna come from? To have to put in this 30-foot culvert to cross a ditch, it's like, okay, and then you go to someplace else, and it's like,
It's like a 12-inch culvert.
yeah, so even at 15, you're like, is that really gonna work? Who's gonna maintain this?
Okay. Anything else in there?
Building permits, not my expertise.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys handle that one.
Dundee Community Forest meeting. Was anything nailed down?
There was homework given.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to start moving forward on things, but realized with the amount of change on the committee that they wanted to push it back another quarter.
Okay.
So they're interested in starting to nail down parking lot, trails, and really the big thing is they kept talking about was some sort of harvest management plan, since it's through. I can't.
One of the big trusts.
Yeah, one of the big trusts of it. So they need to start moving forward on these, but they kind of came to the conclusion that since there's been so much turnover at Upper Saco, there's like a lot of new faces on the committee, so our homework is to go back and reread the management plan and then come back at the next quarter and start to think about those things in a recreational framework.
Yeah, and I think some of the same topics came up of hunting. There are like just kind of some hot points about mountain biking, e-bikes.
That's why I came.
Wireless, that's right, you were there for that, wireless, cameras for hunting. And I guess the part that was, maybe the part that I hope, if I can, if we have an opportunity to have some input on it, there's this moment where it feels like people want it to be different, but then as a group it's like, well, what is being done elsewhere? And then it's like, oh, then we should just probably do that. And I look at it like, well, we're complaining about what we're seeing happening around us. And then it's like, well, what is everybody else adopting? And then it's like, maybe we should just adopt that. But it's like, well, we have an opportunity to make something different. Like maybe more stringent, or maybe looser, or
Tailored to this area.
yeah, like it's like, let's not go through these conversations only to then just cave in and be like, oh, the Forest Service allows this, oh, then we should too. It's like, but there's 15 people sitting here saying like, I don't really like the idea of that. So I kind of feel like it's an opportunity to have it be unique, Like if you don't want something, you strongly don't want it to be there, then maybe this is the 500 acres that doesn't happen anymore.
Maybe what you do is you start with the form that other towns have adopted or other areas, and then you just, cut and paste.
Well, I think they're kind of doing that with, at least with kind of with the Pine Hill Community Forest, at least as far as like bylaws and who's like needing a secretary and needing to, like, I think they're doing some of those with some of the logistics of it.
Administrative.
Yeah, administrative things. They're using the Pine Hill as the kind of
As a
the
template.
template. Yeah,
But just like even the idea that if, like I think Trevor made a good point about his concern about wireless.
What is the wireless?
Wireless cameras.
Game
for
cameras.
Game cameras. So you can be notified instantaneously when your game camera goes off. And I guess there is a rule that you're not supposed to be able to go out to your camera when you're notified if you're a hunter within.
Just 24 hours.
24
But
hours.
you're saying they're putting cameras up in the community forest?
They can put them,
Someone, well, just
I think that's freaky.
the state allows the use of game cameras and they allow the use of game cameras with cellular connectivity, but they require that if you use one of those, that you have to wait 24 hours before initiating a hunt.
I thought you had to notify, I thought you had to notify the landowner.
well, you have to do all that first.
Yeah.
But this is just.
Unless, well, this is also, you don't have to do that on municipal land, so people could put game cameras at Prospect Farm and they don't have to tell anyone, they just have to
Have a sticker on it that says.
say who it belongs to.
If you can see them, I mean, can you see these?
Well, you don't have to be able to see them, that's the point, but the point being is that
Just
you're
sounds like
now
Big Brother.
allowing, you're creating another, if that's okay everywhere,
Mhm.
well, why not say it's not okay here? We don't want people to be able to, this is different, like,
And
you
can
can't
you do
just,
that? Can you say no?
of
Because
course you
said-
can,
Yeah, you said there's a state law that says that.
Yeah, and it's private
it's
land.
private. So, it was just, it's just like that kind of a thing, so people are talking about it, but then it's like, well, what does everyone else do? And it's just like, well, maybe we should just, and it's like, well, no, this is an opportunity to say, we're not gonna
Does
allow something.
everybody else allows cameras?
Well, you have, the Forest Service allows cameras, so the states allow cameras, so state parks allow cameras. So yes, the cameras can be anywhere, but there's a rule about a cellular one, and his point was just being, we should potentially not allow a cellular camera, because this is allowing hunters to be woken up and being told where an animal is right then and there, and literally going out there, because how do you say that?
But are they leaving cameras out there on trees, is it the animal cameras? Cams, whatever?
They could
They
be
leave,
anywhere.
anybody can leave them out there?
Yes.
I
Yes.
think that's just freaky. It's like a Big Brother thing. Does nobody else feel that way?
Well, I mean, if someone puts a camera out someplace you'll never go, I mean, it's like if a tree falls in the forest.
I mean,
You're-
Yeah, but it's on the
theoretically,
trail?
no, because you're not allowed to hunt within a certain distance from a trail, so theoretically, it's,
They're putting them in their spot, you know, they just want to see if animals are coming through. That used to be the idea behind it, used to be just to know if an animal's coming through, and then you can see an animal, and then you get to know, oh, there is a, whatever.
As opposed
Certain
to
number.
going out and trying to figure out, I'll hunt it today, let's see what I can find.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like the whole point of the whole world, is that you don't have to do any of that anymore, just like, you don't have to go to the library to look something up, you can instantaneously do it on your phone. So if you're a library person, you could be upset that someone doesn't have to go to a library. And this is a hunter saying, I don't think it's right that maybe we create a spot where someone can't have that wireless technology. And it just keeps honest people honest. It's not as if, you know. But there's a whole thing, even with the e-bikes, mountain bikes, yes, no, you know, and trails. And so I think it just kind of opened up, to me, I just felt like it would be cool if maybe we didn't follow every rule that every other,
So you do like a management plan, like Ken's doing for the falls, and everybody just talks about what,
Well, I think that's what we're
that's
building
what they're
for.
building.
Yeah.
Because what they have is they have like essentially a harvest, like a timber harvest management plan, like a resource management plan, but not a recreational one. There's like a little bit of recreation in it, but it's mostly like resource management and the plan that was designed, because it was designed by
Yeah.
a forester.
a forester.
Forester.
Yeah, it was a forestry report. I didn't, maybe, because I was just running out of there, because I had to go from there to the school for open house, but what I didn't know is if you picked up on, I know we need to reread the management plan, but at the next meeting, like what we're specifically reviewing the management plan to then, like what, like to
Yeah.
discuss and like what lens, like, they didn't say anything, right? They didn't
No.
say like, reread this plan and like think about it in the context of
I think.
where
it
the
was-
parking lot's going,
I
or
think it
trails
was,
or anything.
I think it was for recreational management.
Okay, so just recreational.
Because I feel like the timber harvest part, the concern for that was like, they just want to know that somebody is doing something, there is a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fact that first thing that we're doing as a management plan for the timber was dealing with invasives. It's like, all right, well, that's actually in the management plan, so we technically are on point, like we're doing something for the management plan of timber harvesting, which is dealing with the invasives first.
I think this is just new since the last meeting, and I think it really stresses the importance of having a well thought out, thorough, but flexible management plan. Is the Randolph Community Forest has like essentially shut down their winter usage there at the glade.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And all over just personal, political, like town politics.
Really?
I didn't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's also revealing like how small towns work. So apparently in Randolph, the planning board is the board where everyone discusses these things. They haven't put minutes out for a year. And they've had several meetings and public meetings that have not had records put out. So they've made a decision that, I'm not gonna get into the minutia of it, but they had a plan. It wasn't formalized. They didn't have a thing, and it was able to be changed on a whim.
Wow.
Oh.
So I think this seems sort of tedious and in the weeds sometimes. We're like, oh, if we're thorough in our thinking about things, but also that there's a framework that things can be addressed and problems, I think that's good in building that in.
Yeah, well, it seems like it's so broad too. It's like is Jackson Ski Tour having groomed trails coming into this, and you know, it's just.
Well, you're right. That's like part of it's like narrowing down those kind of things.
Yeah.
Because that's like a big commitment from Jackson Ski Touring.
Right.
You know, like, so is that commitment there? Like, are they really gonna like go up there and like?
And like, there's really potentially mountain bike trails being built.
Exactly. And who's gonna adopt them? Who's gonna maintain them? Who's gonna like?
Yeah, and what's the
That's the part.
connectivity too, I mean, because otherwise it's parking lots and,
You know,
Well, that's what's happening. I mean,
there's a lot of ideas. So there's a lot of stakeholders on the. I mean, that's the thing. Like when I kind of forgot until I was at that meeting. It's like, oh, there's like a lot of stakeholders here.
yeah.
There's like, I mean, if someone's on the committee that's, you know, representing
different
Yeah.
uses.
backcountry skiing,
Yeah.
and someone's representing mountain biking,
Right.
someone's representing, no.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, right,
So
that's
that's a
like
lot
a
of
lot of.
recreational uses though, as opposed to, you know, the resources.
Right, and there's,
Well, there's that too.
Yeah, there's not, I don't think there's a forester on the committee.
No, but I think someone's being replaced by a forester. I think that was the person who's coming on. What was the other piece of that? Yeah, it's just, and then the other, you know, I guess that's a different topic, but the whole Black Mountain, you know, right? I mean,
Oh, I want to hear, when this is over, I want to get the 30, I didn't go on Saturday,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to hear the 30-second, the elevator speech.
Did
when
you
this is-
go?
When we're done.
I did not. I was at a GBA thing, but
I didn't
I didn't hear from that.
I didn't go either.
it's been sold to the managing entity for Indy Pass, so they'll be operating it this year with the plan that it will turn to a community co-op model the following season.
Oh, that's
Really?
cool.
What's a
All right.
community co-op model? You buy like a
Did you see
CSA?
the entourage of vehicles? I had no idea. I just happened to pull down the hill and I saw 3 just unbelievable camper.
Yeah, that Antabeni.
And then I didn't know that was happening, so I went out, I did a bike ride, and I came down Black Mountain Road at about 5:36, and the parking lot was overflowing and everywhere possible, parked cars everywhere. And I was like, what in the world's going on? It must be a party.
Yeah.
And then there was there must have been another 6 of those black vehicles like circling the outside perimeter of the parking lot.
What is Indy Pass?
What is this?
It is like a multi-area season pass that this particular one represents independently owned ski areas.
It looked like the mafia was here.
And so they've committed to like putting in a huge upgrade to snowmaking there
Wow.
and upgrading facilities.
That seems like one of the best possible outcomes from everything I've been hearing about.
Yeah, it looked like there was like literally $1 million of their own vehicles there. I'd never seen anything like it. I was like, what just happened here?
They had them up last year, they worked on their snowmaking system, but yeah. So it has been sold
So John is out?
out, but Doug will be the mountain operations manager, so,
When this meeting ends, I'll tell you the things that I had heard from last year.
okay.
I don't want these things in minutes.
Okay.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, I only bring it up because they literally almost about the, well, I guess they used to about land that would have been maybe before he swapped out lands, but, you know, that's another connection piece if John is not running the mountain, that Nordic Trail used to be able to access everything cutting across Black.
Yeah, the line off.
Yeah.
So it'd just be interesting. That's why I bring up like some.
I saw a thing that they were making a commitment to uphill communities, but I don't know if that includes other types of access across, so.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Uh,
that's positive.
I was gonna say with Dundee Community Force, I did feel like things are moving slower, and we kind of slowed down a little bit because the new people committee, but I feel like that's okay because
Mhm.
it's just so new and it's so much land and there's so much potential and there's so many ideas that I
Yeah.
feel like rushing into it isn't a great idea.
I 100% agree.
So I was like, fine that we were like, let's take a step back, let's reread this thing, let's,
Right.
you know, like.
Because I think the first meeting that I went to, I was surprised that it seemed like people were just like guessing that there, I think it was put a parking lot here, and I was like, it just seemed like it was, like, we're just winging this? Yeah, I guess, you know, I don't feel that way so much after that meeting, felt much more. And I think the other thing that is, it is separate, unique pieces of property, you know, it's not just one big Prospect Farm chunk, you know, it's like there are areas that are better set for recreation, there are areas that are better set for conservation.
That's how I kind of want to see it managed. I think like one parcel, like I'd love it if one of the parcels just wasn't touched.
Yeah.
They just don't do anything. Like that parcel's just, you know.
I'd also hope though that they do a trail from the Tin Mountain Jackson Conservation Station to, you know, over to Dundee.
It's already
So
there,
you, what,
it's already there.
yeah, it's hard to find.
No, it's not.
It's not. So are you saying they cut it?
I'm just saying it's not that hard to find right now. If you were to walk from,
To the stone wall at the back?
you would not have a problem getting to Dundee.
Do you go down the riverbank? I mean, the stream bed?
Well, you can do a stream at some point, but
Okay.
just go walk to the stone wall, you'll clearly,
Well, I can see where they've done the surveying. They cleared out the stone wall. You're just saying to follow the stone wall?
and then just follow the path.
Perpendicular to the stone wall?
You just go to the stone wall and you'll see a path
Okay.
that I'm calling a trail.
Well, I saw.
I don't know what to call
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I've seen a path, but I've gone down these things and they've ended, but I haven't done it
And
recently.
then you can,
I'll try
or
again.
you can just go from the ham house up, it might be easier.
Yeah.
It's much easier to find now. When I lived at the field station, it wasn't hard, but it was like bushwhacking to get
Yeah.
from Pond 4, the back pond,
Yeah.
to Dundee. I mean, it was a bushwhack.
Did you-
And now it's like
Where
a,
did you used to come out when you did that?
well, because I didn't know what I was doing. I often came out at, what's his name's house.
Oh, Pikowitz.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like
Yeah.
pop out there and then like run away from the dogs.
yeah, that's pretty far from where it comes. I mean, now
Yeah.
you just go right from the ham house.
I found it, I ended up on the old ski trail.
Mhm.
You know, cross-country ski trail, the blue diamonds. And I'm like, huh,
Right, so then you're too low if you're that.
It's what, 2-0?
Yeah, I guess so.
That's where I came up though.
Yeah, just go to the ham house
Right?
and just go for a walk
Yeah.
behind the ham house. You'll pick up on it pretty quick.
I can say that Tin Mountain is also interested in connecting trails.
Oh, good.
You're interested. There's some things that we have to discuss
There's
about
some
uses,
really good trail going.
but
Yeah,
Tin Mountain's interested in connecting those trails.
good.
Yeah, and that's their direct butter, right?
Mhm.
And that's,
Yeah.
yeah, and I understand how that wouldn't ideally, I mean, I run in Tin Mountain on those trails, and I think you can noticeably see the difference that those trails don't get mountain biked, and how they wouldn't be able to sustain, they wouldn't be in the condition they are if bikes were allowed to to ride those trails.
And also, like, I just think that it wouldn't be that, there's like better places to ride your mountain bike.
Yeah, I mean, not for some people. For some people, that would be epic. But I agree. It
It would
it's
just
just,
trash it because of the roots and all that sort of
it's
thing.
just deep and just heavy. I think just, you'd have to do such maintenance to maintain it. I mean, it's noticeable when you're running on it.
Yeah.
that This is not get mountain biked.
I went up Sapporo yesterday. It was like ice because of the acorns and the leaves.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I went off the trail at one point. I'm like, because it's not for a sign very well, it just couldn't find. I mean, I knew kind of where it was, so I got back on.
Yeah, there's on the back side of coming down the side closer to the houses on Jackson Highlands, like
Yeah.
that side of the loop. There's like, you tell people have started to like, it started to
Yeah.
throw it out a little bit. There's like one or two spots where people, instead of staying on the trail, just kind of cut
Yeah.
straight down. And so,
No, I go up that way. It's when I get to the peak where the view is, and then I go back down. I'm like,
The loop?
I just got totally off the trail. Yeah.
it's been rerouted a
Okay,
couple
maybe
times.
that's why. Hmm.
Because it used to, when you get to the peak, now, like looking at the view and I turn around, the trail used to go off to the right, and now it goes off to the left.
Okay.
Going clockwise?
Yeah, it's a
Or
more
counterclockwise?
clockwise. Yeah,
You're
so maybe
coming
that's
from
why
behind?
I was really off.
Like,
But I know I have to go up on the ledge. So.
It's just like the same.
and I was just gonna sit here until it worked. I
Just
had
push
no,
it, use your thumb.
I had no backup plan
I hope-
other than
I
just
hope
to keep pushing this button. I'm so
Some
tired.
monkey.
I had my COVID flu shots today. I have an excuse.
Wow.
Got brain fog. So like this is the summit, and there's a trail that comes up on this side, and then there's like the steep trail that comes up on that side.
Where's the mine?
The mine's like, hold on. The mine's like here.
Pond four?
So we're going
Pond 4 is
clockwise?
like over here, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Here's the, and you can like, you come up, here's like the mine, and it goes like this,
Yeah.
and then here's like the downhill, here's like the vertical shaft,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a trail like that, and then there's a trail that runs this way, and there's like this loop like
Here
this.
comes the loop, yeah.
So this is the steep side. This is the really steep side.
I go up that. In fact, coming down.
And people have been like kind of just walking down like this.
Mm.
Because what happens is you get really close to these houses and it looks like you're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because you actually leave to mountain property for probably like
Yeah.
300 feet.
Yeah.
They rerouted it. It used to come up like, now it comes up like this and like does a couple of switchbacks. And it used to like come up and just go straight up like that. So people miss these switchbacks.
So you have to go this way in order to go back down.
So you get to the view, like here's the summit, you keep walking and then there's like a little ledge with the view
Yeah.
looking directly at those houses that were built
Right, yeah,
on the middle mountain.
yeah.
And then you go back this way and you go to the right and it switchbacks it down a little bit. And then there's a view this way to South Doublehead.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, well, it doesn't.
No, try it again.
And then it goes like black, basically.
It's a nice loop.
It's great.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Except for the
I mean,
acorns.
it's a really uniquely cool.
It's really like going
I,
without crampons or poles.
When was it? Like a couple weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was sitting there with Henry, who's my son, was in 6th grade. We're sitting there, it was like Thursday night, and he's like, let's go sleep on top of there. So, because I used to sleep on it all the time when I lived there. So it's like a great little spot to like just
Yeah.
spend the night and sleep.
And
No,
it's-
I shouldn't be saying this. This is not what I did not do that. No one do that. It's terrible. I gotta watch them sit there.
We could wrap this up.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else.
I only have one thing, and that's Conservation Commission adjacent, which is the dugout over there. Just an update on the dugout. I can't remember if we talked about this in the last meeting. So I contacted Julie. The town owns the dugout, and it's on the selectmen's meeting. It's for sale. Yeah, we're gonna sell it. It's gonna become a boutique. I don't know. It's on the selectmen's agenda for the 22nd of October. And so I took some pictures in between coaching soccer practice today.
Oh,
And
excellent.
so,
Great.
because the sink's broken and there's like stuff that needs to be fixed. So, like I said, adjacent to Conservation Commission, but still
Yeah.
sort of within our
It's on,
purview of like,
it's on the,
It's on
it's
Rexon.
on town land.
yeah,
It's-
town, rec land.
That was created by the Conservation Commission.
So hopefully, we figure out how to clean it up.
It turns off the camera.
Yeah, we still have an open position. I did not find Is there a,
Make a motion.
our next meeting is going to be November 4th, and I will email people about site visit, so.
Alright.
And is there a
I'll
motion
make a
to adjourn?
To adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Here you
So there's no more hang?
I don't know what happened.
Of course, Hank removed.
He was not feeling well.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if maybe they got a fancy camera and you can do everything from a cell
You can
phone.
rewind that.